Hello everyone, I'm WSAV digital reporter Ashley Williams, and I'm here with Storm Team 3 meteorologist Kyle Dennis and Alysa Carsley. Hi guys.
Hello. Here we are again. Another update.
Yeah, we're giving you guys another update on Hurricane Dorian. It's now been downgraded to a Category 4, so these guys are going to tell you a little bit about, what's the latest on Dorian.
Well, so yeah, I mean, it was downgraded to Category 4. I mean, it's kind of weird to say downgraded when you're talking about Category 4 hurricane. But yeah, winds are down a little bit now, 155, but this is still just below Category 5 strength.
Right. If you take a look at what Michael did last year, when it made landfall near Panama City, it was Category 5 hurricane winds of 155 miles per hour,
Right.
So it's still a very, very powerful hurricane, even though it's been downgraded to just a Category 4.
Right. Even as it may weaken here over the next couple of days, the wind field may get larger. So it's going to become a larger storm. The wind field will expand, even though the wind speeds may be lower.
And that's something we've been noticing. Yesterday, the hurricane force winds only extended 30 miles away from the center. Now it's 45, so we're slowly starting to see it expand a little bit farther.
Yeah.
Okay. And someone online asked about what we can see in our area as far as storm surge. And I know that there's been a storm surge, was it watch or warning?
So let me go to that now. So here's the storm surge watch that was issued for parts of our area. So it includes Chatham County down through McIntosh County. Glynn County is also included in that. So a storm surge watch, and of course it's the same thing with any other watch or warning. Watch means conditions are possible within 48 hours, in this case for storm surge, not that it's necessarily about to happen, but the watch for this particular storm surge is for 4 to 7 feet of water above ground. That's what you could see in low-lying areas, especially along the coast. Life-threatening flooding, property damage, severe beach erosion. That's why you really want to listen to any evacuation orders that are issued.
Right, and that was just issued, and this, again, could change over the next couple of days. We go back to looking at the track, we see the cone still stretching farther inland, so we still have those scenarios that we talked about earlier where if it gets a little bit closer to us, we could see storm surge levels get a little bit higher, farther away, we could see it come down a little bit. However, as it makes its way up the East Coast, we're still getting that onshore wind. So we are going to see at least some type of storm surge as it gets a little bit closer to us, just due to that stronger onshore wind.
Right. I mean, even if it were to take the far east track on the edge of that cone, remember, that's just forecasting the center of the storm. There's going to be a large area of strong easterly wind on the north side of that storm as it's moving to the north. And so all of that water will be pushed toward the coast. Of course, the closer it tracks to the coast, the stronger winds, the closer the strongest winds will be to the coast. So that would make the surge more severe. But even if it tracks further offshore, you're still getting a swell that's being generated there, and that water all has to go somewhere. It eventually will reach the coast.
We just talked about how the wind field is expanding, and hurricane force winds extend 45 miles away from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend 140 miles away from the center. So it is slowly getting larger and larger.
Yeah, just a couple of days ago we were talking about hurricane force winds extending out about 30 miles, tropical storm force winds out about 100. So even though the storm is, quote unquote weakening, it is getting bigger.
Yeah.
And so is the storm still moving as slowly as it was when we had our earlier update?
Yeah, it's just crawling through the Bahamas right now. It's really not going to start moving until we head into tomorrow morning.
So so when I came into work this morning, the center was about 35 miles east of Freeport on Grand Bahama Island. Now it's about 30 miles northeast of Freeport. So it's just been wobbling a little bit, but really hasn't moved, with any conviction. We've seen little wobbles to the north, maybe a little bit to the west, but it's still unclear, when it's going to pick up its forward motion and start to accelerate. And once we see that happen, I think we're really going to be able to narrow down that track even more.
Right, and it's at that point when we know when it's going to start taking that northerly turn. The faster it does, the more it's going to stay offshore. The slower it does, the more chance it's going to move right up the East Coast, and we're going to see a higher chance for impacts.
Yeah, if you see this storm getting very close to the Florida coast, that's not going to be good news for us either.
Not at all.
And actually further up the coast, someone on Facebook has asked what are the impacts that we could maybe see in Hilton Head?
So I think no matter where the storm does track, the majority of the impacts are going to be felt right along the coastline. So storm surge is going to be a high possibility, especially with that onshore wind as it gets closer to us. Some type of stronger wind gusts, especially a gusty breeze, even if it's scenario 3 where it's all the way out in the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to see some gusty winds, but right behind Kyle right now is our tropical force wind chance. And right along the coast, we have about an 80% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds. And tropical storm force winds start at 39 miles per hour. So that's, again, something we could be looking for.
Yeah, so you see right along our entire stretch of coastline,
Yep.
and that includes the entire area right now under the storm surge watch, which is Chatham County and points to the south. Our entire stretch of coastline, though, has an 80% chance of tropical storm force wind and about a 20% chance of hurricane force. But look how that quickly ramps up offshore. So that's why we're talking about minor track adjustments could have a huge impact on what we ultimately see. But I would be prepared for hurricane force wind. You have to at least be prepared for that possibility.
That's what you should be preparing for, is scenario one, the worst case scenario, where we do see hurricane force conditions, gusts or hurricane force winds, lots of rain, life-threatening storm surge. That's what you should be preparing for, even though we do have the chance of seeing a low impact storm.
Right.
And so with the National Hurricane Center's most recent update, were there any other additional changes that have occurred with Dorian?
Most of the changes that I saw really just kind of revolved around just the current stats, because really it hasn't moved, it hasn't really done a whole lot other than the fact that the maximum winds have weakened a little bit.
Yeah.
But we didn't really see any other major updates like in terms of the track or anything like that.
Yeah, I was going to say the track really hasn't moved at all. It's just been a weakened storm slightly.
Now I think you will see that cone really start to narrow here probably later today and especially by tomorrow morning, because the width of that cone is based not on the spread in the models or the range and possibilities specific to this storm. The width is based on the average track error over the last 5 years at that time frame. And so, you know, it's going to narrow up here pretty soon. Yeah,
and that's when we'll know exactly where it's sort of more tracking towards and the impacts. However, again, that cone just shows where the center of the storm will be, and we'll be seeing more impacts even though the center of the storm could be offshore.
Okay. So those are the few questions that I gathered from the past few hours online, but I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything specifically that you guys wanted to relate to the viewers here.
I mean, basically, you know, the coastal areas are going to see by far the highest impact with this, even if it's just storm surge. I mean, that's going to be an impact obviously specific to the coast, but the coast has the highest chance for the tropical storm force winds, for the hurricane force winds. Inland areas have a chance for tropical storm force wind too. Doesn't look likely, you know, west of I-95 that you'd see hurricane force wind or major flooding rain. It's not out of the question, it just doesn't look likely right now. Areas further east, that's where we really need to watch.
I would just prepare for a storm that moves right up the coast where you do see the worst case scenario, because that's what's going to help you prepare even for a low impact storm. You know,
and as much as we watch models, I think at this point now, you know, models are only so good. You know, I think we need to really watch the storm itself closely, because sometimes, you know, little wobbles happen that maybe the models don't pick up on. You got to be like really quick to pick up on those things. You may pick up on it before the model. You know, as trained meteorologists, and we watch these things all the time. You know, we may pick up on a new trend here. So we're kind of getting into what we call nowcasting. We're watching observations and using those observations and not just models to kind of give us clues of what's
and then we're narrowing down what could or could not happen.
Okay. Any other thoughts, guys?
I mean, just stay with us. We're going to have, I mean, as we go forward now, we're getting into that 48-hour window. There's going to be so much more information coming out. It's going to be coming out much faster, I think, and you're going to get a lot more updates.
And I know that I think it's starting at noon that there's mandatory evacuations for, I believe it's A and B zones in Chatham County. So I think people should definitely be prepared, you know, and stay safe out there.
Yeah, and if you're in one of those areas under that order, listen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and don't forget to stay with us online at wsav.com/Hurricane Central, and also don't forget about the WSAV weather app as well.
It's free.
All right, thank you so much.